In today's video, I'm going to talk about a missing Book of Mormon city. I say it's missing because there's essentially nothing left there. So the video won't be very long, but it was an extremely large Native American city that appears to have existed in the Ben's Run, West Virginia area, which is along the Ohio River. And all the way we know that it's there was that there were some early writings about it in the 1800s that describe it. Unfortunately, it's all been plowed over, and there's essentially nothing left at this time. But I'll show you the information that we have on it. So first, let's show you where it is. So here's the eastern United States. We have Ohio and West Virginia. We have the Ohio River going down there as the border between Ohio and West Virginia, and it's here along that Ohio River. So it's in the Ben's Run, West Virginia area. And as you see, it's the West Virginia side of the Ohio River. This way is north. And Ben's Run is a very small town. And the site is this, right along here. So the Ohio River flows down. It's a mountainous area that the river goes through. And along the shore, the eastern shore of the Ohio River, is a flat area. And the Native American city and earthworks were here in this area next to the hills, between the hills and the river. Okay. Now, if you go to that area, and I have been to that area, and there's basically nothing there anymore, but you'll see this sign along the road as it says that there are ancient ruins. They're made of stone and earth. They're among the largest to be found in the United States. It included two parallel walls that were several miles in length, 120 feet apart. So there are two walls, and they went around the site. They were parallel to each other. Different reports on the heights of them. There was estimates that they were as tall as 16 feet, perhaps. They had eroded down quite a bit. So in 1880, they said at that time that they were still tall enough that a person could not see over them. So, at least 6 feet tall, but it had eroded a lot. But they're estimating that they were taller anciently. And the area enclosed is more than 400 acres. Again, that 400-acre size comes up again, which is the same size as the Pinson Mound site and the Poverty Point site, which are two of the largest Native American city areas. This site also was around that, but it was actually more than 400 acres. Okay, now a good way to get information about this site, and the way we know as much as we do about it, is due to a attempt to survey and write down what they saw by a father and son, George Riggs and Nicola Riggs, in 1927. And they knew about the site. They made the effort to go track what they could still find. And you can find this at this website if you Google this Ben's Run earthwork site, and you can end up finding it and reading what they wrote. But I'm going to read a little bit of this. So they explored, they called it a great fortification. They said they could still trace much of it. It enclosed about 400 acres, they estimated. And it talked about the two parallel walls that were 120 feet apart. So a double set of walls for this particular fortification. They give a description about where the walls went at that site that I just showed you along the Ohio River, between the river and the hills on the east side of it. They said the north to south was about 1 7/8 of a mile, and that if you followed the walls around, it was about a little over 4 miles, 4.5 for the outer wall, a little over about a 4 1/4 miles for the inner wall. And their estimate about the walls was that when in use, they estimated 10 to 12 feet tall. in addition to the large outer fortifications, that those walls, there were some interior walls and mounds that they describe a little bit. There were a couple of mounds, and then there was a what they called a cross wall, which basically divided the enclosure in half. Now, this is interesting because there's a similar dynamic at some of the other Hopewell sites that we've talked about. If you've seen my video on the Armstrong Mountain Fort, which is in along the Kanawha River in West Virginia, that also had a fortification that was then kind of divided near the middle. The same thing occurred at the Fort Ancient site, which was that fortified prehistoric Native American city that fits the Book of Mormon time frame near Cincinnati. And it has a northern fort and a southern fort, and with a neck choking between the north and the south parts of that fort. So apparently that was another thing that they did, whether it was to divide the city or for defensive purposes, I don't know, but it would have a sort of a cross wall that would sort of divide the city or fortification into two. And like I said, that's something that we've seen at other sites as well. They then give a little bit more information, and then they also give their projections or assumptions on what the site was used for, which I don't think are all that valuable. They do mention one other interesting aspect of the fortification. They mention that on a couple of the hills near the site, there were platforms that had stones. So these kind of stone platforms. It's unclear whether these were used along the Ohio River as sort of signaling areas or watchtowers, or whether that's for sacrifices or ceremonial purposes, or we don't know what it was for. But they talk about one where at the top of the hill, there was sort of a paved stone platform with additional rocks set around it. And they, by looking at the hill, they said it's pretty clear that the rocks are not original from the top and must have been carried up to the top of the hill to sort of make this paved stone platform and rocks around it. Now, there's an interesting YouTube video that I want to show you, and I'm just going to do some clips of it for a man who goes and takes a look at this site. Now, I've been to this site. When I went there, unfortunately, most of the land is private land that you're not allowed on. There's some manufacturing and other types of facilities there, but and looking around, you can't really see anything anyway. But this man was able to explore and see a little bit, and I enjoy his description of it. So this is called Ancient Adena Ruins Found. Now, he calls them Adena, and there are others that call them Adena. I actually think that they're Hopewell. And the reason for that, again, are the nature of the earthworks with the fortified walls and the 400 acres. That's culturally Hopewell, not Adena. But nevertheless, he calls them Ancient Adena Ruins Found. It's at Clegg's Adventures, that YouTube site. And I'm going to pick up and play a couple of bits of it where he talks about this site.
Find a lot of stuff, but I want to take you someplace right now that very few people know exists. It's amazing. Come on. We're standing in the middle right now of the largest ancient earthwork city in the United States. There's very little documented on this area, as it's all been destroyed by farming. The earthworks at Ben's Run covered.
I was right here. So this is from the north, looking south. You see the Ohio River flowing south that direction. Ben's Run is the town to the south. And again, this is that. You see the hills around, and this whole site was what was this Native American city and fortified area that we're talking about here. I'll just note about the YouTuber who does this, Clegg's. He likes to look for Native American artifacts that are found along the Ohio River, and that's what brought his interest to this area.
A large area here along the river, starting south here at the small town of Ben's Run, and spanning north to the small community of Long Reach. The inside area of the earthworks was near 400 acres, surrounded by two earthen walls approximately 16 feet high that ran parallel to each other about 130 feet apart, the entire circumference of the earthworks. Now here's a little animated drawing I made, giving you an idea of what the earthen walls would have looked like running around.
Now, my guess is that these walls had the ditches like you also find in the other Hopewell sites like Fort Ancient, but I don't know that. The description is insufficient to see that. And he did this based off of the, again, tracing the walls, that work that was done by the rigs that I showed you.
Now when I say walls, I'm not talking about dirt bricks like a regular wall. Picture like a giant speed bump on the road, but 16 feet high and probably 30 feet wide, made out of dirt. They would have loosened the dirt with a digging tool of some sort and then carried that by hand in baskets to make these walls. The walls were just like mounds of dirt that extended. The earthworks had a few internal walls as well, as the remnants of this internal east to west wall can still be seen by this line of trees.
That's the cross wall. That this was the site, and this cross wall that sort of divided the whole city or fortified area into two, which I talked about.
The internal east to west wall had two walls coming off of it that curved into a point with an opening of a few feet. I'm assuming it was to walk through. And to the opposite side of this straight wall were two mounds, one large one and one small one, that were just looted and destroyed over the times. Very few people, even in this area, know of this ancient city.
And then he talks with some local people and stuff just to how they don't know it. And then the other thing that he does is he does go try to find the artificial platform rock and additional rocks. So there's a hill nearby this, and it's an artificial top was built onto it to extend the top of it. And then large platform stone rock with additional rocks around it were there. Not sure if it was for ceremonial areas or to do signal fires or what, but he goes and looks for it. And so we'll skip through a lot of that until he goes up. This is him going up the hill. Is quite a hike up. And we'll jump to about the 1728 mark. Okay. This is where we'll pick up again. So here we are where he reaches the top of the hill and looks at the artificial top of the hill.
Into view now. You can see it clear up here on the tip top.
So this is the artificial top of the hill.
It would have taken a lot of human power to move those up over the hill. But hey, I guess the Egyptians moved some pretty big stones too. Almost there. And you can see right here where the original top of the hill was. We're almost to the original top of the hill. Would have been right here. Now the erosion on this place has taken its toll over the last centuries. But I want to show you what's on top still remaining of the platform and the stones that were surrounding it. How you move a 1,200-pound stone from a creek up that hill. Wow. Somebody.
And so then he'll show the rocks that he sees up there. So you see this was a platform which is later then split in half, and then around it, oh, we'll go ahead and let him
collapse down to here. Would have been a very large stone platform. Now the earthworks would have been that way, just about a half mile over the hill. I'm sure they probably had a path or some kind of trail up the back way here instead of coming up that steep cliff from the river. And the stones that were in a circular pattern around the platform are still here. You can see one of them here. And the size of this stone, what it would have taken to move up that hill, incredible. Along with the other stones that are still here. There's one there. They go all the way around. There's one there. There's one under here. And there's one right down there. The ones on the front side seem to have been lost under the dirt.
So again, this was at the top of the hill, a large platform stone with smaller stones in a circle around it. And then he's also going to mention that they found some signs of fire up there.
You only see remnants of them. I'm seeing a lot of this red fired sandstone here. Like maybe there were some fires up here. And I'm sure there was.
Okay, so that's good enough. Again, I recommend the entire video there. But I showed you the most interesting part. So I wish there were more information about this site. To me, it seems to have clearly been a fortified city. Unfortunately, there's essentially nothing left there. It's all been plowed over, and now there's manufacturing facilities and other stuff built on top of it. The walls, which he said were 16 feet. The writers in the 1920s estimated 10 to 12 feet, but double walls. Those are consistent with the types and sizes of the walls that are found at Fort Ancient and other Hopewell fortified cities that fit the description of the Captain Moroni fortified cities in the Book of Mormon. They fit the Book of Mormon time frame. And so I do think that this was a Book of Mormon site, a fortified Book of Mormon city. Unfortunately, it's the missing Nephite city since we don't have more information on it. But anyway, if any of you have additional information, I'd love to know about it. Or if you have thoughts or questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. If you like the material, please like and subscribe. Thank you.